Just as I was recently embarking on my 6th Cunard Queen Mary 2 transatlantic crossing, I received a question from a follower asking if Cunard was suitable for American cruises these days. It got me thinking about the many questions I get about Cunard, as they're getting more complicated to answer because Cunard has recently changed in a couple of ways, while remaining stubbornly stuck in the past on others. So I thought it's time to answer not only that question, but other questions about Cunard and share some warning signs about changes coming that I think many are not going to like. Welcome aboard. I'm Gary Bembridge. Now, although I've spent 270 nights on Cunard ships now, other than the Queen Mary 2 transatlantic, I'm much less enthusiastic about the line for reasons you're about to hear about. Most people ask me if Cunard is a luxury cruise line. This is a misconception. It's driven by their marketing. Cunard's heritage makes it feel grander than it is, and they show white glove service, butlers, fancy food, glamorous people in glamorous outfits, and talk about highbrow festivals at sea focused on fashion, theatre, dance, and literature. And they show the experience that sweet guests get. I never forget the shock I got stepping on my very first Cunard voyage, Queen Elizabeth II, back in 2004, realizing it was not the luxury line the advertising suggested. Cunard is aimed at and competes for passengers in what the industry calls the premium category, which includes lines like Holland America, Princess, Celebrity, and now Virgin. They have the same sized ships, carrying between 2,000 and 3,000 passengers, the same cabin grades from inside to suites with comparable fares to those other premium lines. The service levels and the crew to passenger ratio matches them too, as does the range and quality of food unless you're in a suite. They have broadly the same daily program as those premium lines, with one area they do excel at, which I will talk about shortly. Cunard also has all the cost add-ons, upcharges, and push for you to spend more, as with those other premium lines. Cunard fares do not include drinks, gratuities, Wi-Fi, and specialty dining. There are upcharges for items like lobster and steaks on the menu. Most cabin grades pay for room service, and there's many revenue generating pushes like shopping promotions, photographs, drink tasting events, bingo, and so on. It is very much a premium ship experience aimed at everybody, from people seeking value inside cabins through to those wanting a suite on a larger ship experience. There's also development I think you need to be aware of, as it could mean that in addition to recent cutbacks and changes, more could be coming. The president, senior leadership, and the teams managing the more mainstream P&O cruises have been merged into combined Cunard and P&O teams. P&O Cruises is the UK line known for cutbacks and increasingly offering value cruising for families. We already know that Queen Mary 2 is coming out of the 2027 revamp with more cabins and increased passenger capacity. So we should be watching for what and how these changes in how Cunard is run are going to impact the ships and the Cunard experience. Now, I mentioned Grills is used in the advertising as their flagship. But what exactly is the Grills, and is Cunard as class and status driven as most people think it is? Most people assume Cunard is very class driven, and there are big differences between passenger grades. This is mostly a misconception. There are some differences and some limited exclusive areas, but nowhere near as many segregated areas as on some of Cunard's direct competition like Celebrity with the Retreat, or even some of the main mastery market lines like MSC with its Yacht Club and Norwegian with the Haven. Cunard does have segmented dining rooms tied to the cabin category you book. Britannia for inside ocean view and balcony cabins, Britannia Club for Britannia Club balcony cabins, Princess Grill for mini suites, and Queen's Grill for suites. However, every passenger, regardless of their cabin category, has full access to all the public spaces on board: the Golden Lion Pub, Chart Room, Commodore Lounge, Corinthia Lounge, the nightclub, the library, the casino, the Queen's Room for afternoon tea and dancing, pool decks with hot tubs, and even the Royal Court Theatre has no reserved seating for suite guests, unlike on Celebrity, Norwegian, MSC and others. All Grill passengers do get that's different beyond this dining room is a small lounge and a deck with lounges. No pool, no hot tub, no bar, no dining up there. unlike, say, Celebrities Retreat, where their suite guests get a large dedicated lounge, a large deck with drinks, pool, bar, and dining. Where the grills genuinely stand out is food. If you're in Princess or Queen's Grill, the dining is, without question, better than anything in Britannia, and I'd argue better than most cruise lines in the world, luxury lines included. With open seating for breakfast, lunch and dinner, Grills passengers have a dedicated table, 3 waiters looking after them, and a huge menu, plus a list of off-menu items like Dover sole, Chateaubriand that they can order. In Queen's Grill, you can also order anything you fancy. You want a roast chicken for dinner or a curry that isn't on the menu, they'll make it for you. Plus unlimited caviar every single night in Queen's Grill. Many dishes are prepared tableside too, Dover sole, crepe Suzette, a whole theatrical dining experience. And of course, book the grills and you get a bigger cabin, and in Queen's Grill a butler. But actually that's true across basically many of their premium category competitors too. And other premium lines also have separate dining for their top cabins too. Celebrity has Blue and Lumini, Holland America has Club Orange, Princess has Club Dining, and the Sanctuary restaurant on their new ship. So Cunard isn't any more class driven than its competitors. Arguably, it's less so when it comes to unique closed off spaces on a ship. I mentioned at the beginning of this, I'd been asked if Cunard is more of a British line for British travellers these days, with many Britishisms, traditions and rules. Here is the answer. While Cunard of course plays up its British roots and leans into some areas to differentiate itself from others, it's a global brand owned by Carnival Corporation, and it markets to and caters though for international travellers. This is most evident on a Queen Mary 2 transatlantic, which will have many Americans, Canadians, Germans, French, Dutch, Australians, and of course lots of British cruisers. Sailings out of the UK and their Mediterranean fly cruises do tend to skew though more heavily British. So the passenger mix varies hugely by ship, itinerary, season, and the departure point. Despite the British image, the onboard currency is the US dollar, not the UK pound, and Cunard has major sales operations in the United States, Germany, France, Australia, and beyond. It's really easy to book Cunard internationally, unlike, say, very UK-focused lines, Saga, P&O Cruises, Ambassador, Marella, and Fred Olsen. These are much harder for international passengers to book than Cunard. The crew is also diverse and international. While the captain and several of the senior crew are usually, but not always, British, most of the crew are like basically any other line: Filipinos, South Africans, Eastern Europeans, and so on. They do lean into Britishness where it makes sense, like having the Golden Lion pub. Afternoon tea is a major daily event, and popular English dishes like fish and chips, bangers and mash, and curries are often on the menu. The daily programme and the language are British spelling. Trivia tends to have a more British focus often. The guest entertainers and speakers, though, will be a mixture of nationalities, often based on where the ship is sailing from and to. For example, on the crossing I just completed, we had some American speakers, like we had Seth Goppen talking about New York skyscrapers, Ken Walsh, a White House correspondent who was talking about all things White House and things like Air Force One. But I've also had UK ex-Concorde pilots, UK prison wardens. Chris Frame, the well-known Australian maritime historian and author, is a frequent speaker too. The celebrity guest speaker on each trip, though, is normally from the UK. On that particular crossing, it was Sir Tony Robinson, known for shows like Blackadder and Time Team. I've also been with Celia Imrie, a well-known UK actress, Will Carling, a famous UK rugby player, Michael Howard, a past Conservative Party leader. The next question I get, and I get asked a lot, is if Cunard is only really for elderly and very traditional cruisers. Several people on that recent transatlantic did remark they were rather surprised at how much older the demographic was than other mainstream and premium lines that they'd been on. Now, Cunard does tend to skew towards an older demographic, especially on longer trips like world voyages. But I think that is also driven by being a very traditional line with a very classic and more enrichment-focused program. I've already mentioned they have speakers on board, and enrichment talks is their main focus of entertainment, with 4 or 5 speakers on every trip. It is by far the most expansive and the best program on any cruise line. But also, Cunard offers cruises that, like traditional cruising, quite a bit more than many other lines. They have ballroom dancing every night in the Queen's Room with an orchestra, making it pretty much the only major cruise line that still has proper ballroom and ballroom dancing. There is a massive library on every ship, packed full of books. The program is classic, leaning into things like trivia, bingo, afternoon tea, craft and painting classes, dance exercise classes, passenger choirs and passenger sing-alongs. However, the mix of passengers depends on where and when you are going. So for example, during school holidays, more families are cruising on Cunard than ever before. For example, I've been on a Christmas cruise twice out of New York to the Caribbean with over 400 kids on board. Summer transatlantic crossings have more of a mix of multi-generational families, more cruises in their 40s and 50s as well, for example. And on their short 3 to 5 nighters out of Southampton, these attract an increasing number of the younger party crowd. Now, many people, especially LGBT travelers, ask me if this older, more traditional passenger profile makes it stuffy and, importantly, more closed-minded on board. Not from what I've seen. Cunard actually attracts a large gay traveller base with very, very busy daily LGBT meetups, and you will see same-sex couples dancing on the ballroom with no issues. But of course, one of the biggest questions is always about just how formal is Cunard. Cunard, through its history, reputation and advertising, is seen as being very formal, with tuxedo black tie and ball gowns required much of the time. The reality is rather different these days. Daytime is entirely casual, shorts, t-shirts, baseball caps, kind of whatever you like. Most nights after 6 p.m, it's smart casual to go to your dining room. This means you can wear, as a man, chinos, smart jeans, collared or polo shirt. Ladies can wear smart dresses, skirts with blouses or stylish trousers. The only no-go really to go to the dining room are t-shirts, shorts, ripped jeans, sportswear. Cunard does still hold gala evenings, but they are far fewer than they used to be, at most 2 per 7 nights. On those nights, to go to the dining room, men are, in their words on their site, invited to wear dinner jackets, tuxedos or suits with a tie, and women evening gowns, ball gowns, cocktail dresses or a smart trouser suit. On board, the wording in the daily program suggests it's required rather than you're invited to. So you kind of need to wear that to go to the dining rooms. But if you'd rather not dress up on any night and prefer to stick to t-shirt, shorts, ripped jeans, you can dine in the King's Court buffet or the pop-up specialty dining venues that they also have within the buffet. Afterwards, you can enjoy pretty much most of the public venues like the Golden Lion Pub, the Corinthia Lounge, the King's Court Theatre, so you can go and see the show, you can gamble in the casino, you can go to the nightclub. So really only the Queen's Room for ballroom dancing and bars like the Charter and the Commodore Club are considered off limits if not following the dress code on any evening. But talking about the Cunard experience, I often get asked if it is the same across the fleet. The Cunard fleet is not consistent. It has one unique, one-of-a-kind ship, Queen Mary II, which is the only true cruise liner in the world. Then it has 3 ships repurposing ship designs from within the Carnival Corporation. Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth are Vista-class ships, sister style to ships you'll find in Holland America and Carnival fleets. These have a classic Cunard Art Deco style. Inside, they have itineraries, quite diverse itineraries, Norway, Mediterranean, British Isles. They do world cruises, grand voyages, and so on. Queen Anne is a stretched Pinnacle class ship, which was originally designed for Holland America. It has a much more contemporary feel. It's less rich in traditional art decor style, and it's clearly designed, I feel, to pull in a newer kind of Cunard cruiser, looking for a kind of more modern ship. The ship mostly sails, though, ex-Southampton routes, but does do a world and grand voyage annually. All 4 ships, though, have versions of the same classic Cunard venues like the Queen's Room, Golden Lion Pub, Charter Room, Library, Commodore Club, Royal Court Theatre, and of course the Britannia Club, Princess and Queen's Court restaurants. Though they're often in different locations, they're laid out differently, and they feel very different ship to ship. If you want the truly unique, iconic experience, it's Queen Mary II, with no contest. If you want the classic Cunard feel with more diverse itineraries, go for Queen Victoria or Queen Elizabeth. But if you want the newest, more modern interpretation of the brand, without a shadow of a doubt, that's Queen Anne. And to find out more about Queen Anne, this newest interpretation of Cunard, join me over in this video where I talk about how it's different, what works and what does not work and why. See you over there.